All right, welcome to Stampscaping 101. We're going to try a warm tone scene here. It's getting cold around the country right now, even in Southern California, relatively speaking. And I thought I would do a warm tone scene. I thought about doing something in warm sunset colors or something like that. But the wood grain paper is inherently nice and warm. Any type of wood type of texturing tends to be like natural colored wood tends to be very warm in general, so I thought I would try something with that. And I'm going to try something with yellow pigment over the top of it. I'm going to see if I can get a yellow pigment sun on there. I should have tried it on a test piece before doing the whole scene first, but let's just go for it here. Okay, so let's go for this winter bank here, brook. But this could be anything, though. Okay, let's see. Let me go kind of low with this. I said it could be used for anything. If you do, this image here in, I don't know, whatever, blacks, blues, whites, to represent winter, it could be that. But you can also do the banks and everything around it in greens if you're doing color, and that is absolutely fine. And it represents whatever type of season you want it to be. Okay. All right, so I'm using some Moonlight Night, opaque blackest black from Moon in the Maker. I've been using StazOn ink on this paper, but I tried this hybrid ink on this type of paper, and it dried just fine, and I thought it gave me some really good impressions. Okay, and you can just clean it off with regular water. I clean off StazOn with regular water too, but this one's a little bit more water based than the solvent type of ink of StazOn. Okay, all right, adding in some additional texturing on the side. Now this is where, I'm making this into more of a grassy area instead of a more of a wintry one. I would use the snow texture out to the sides here to fill in this area if I were doing snow. Okay, so it's just sedge filler. It's more of this grassy type of varied texture. Okay, let's see. Now, I thought I would go for some of these trees. Let's make this into, I don't know, maybe like a sunset during spring. That's the idea. I don't know if I'm going to get that, that many colors on here in this kind of simple type of application of these. This media here, but we'll see. Oh, let me see here. I need to go for my background sun first because I'm going to put some of these tree branches right over the top of it, okay? So here's my little rider right here. Let's put the sun over here somewhere. Okay, now this is where I'm not sure if this is going to work or not because I've used white on here on this wood grain paper and it looks fantastic. It looks like a moon. But I haven't used a yellow. In fact, I didn't even know I had this yellow here. I totally forgot. It's the Hero Hues Unicorn Pastel Yellow, okay? Maybe the pastel aspect of it, should work just fine. Now that I'm applying it, it looks like it's white. Maybe it's because I'm doing it over the top of the wood grain, and the wood grain is all like so much more yellowy. Yeah, it looks okay. Let's go a little bit more opaque though. Let's see if I can get a little bit more build up here. This might have to be one of those things where you do it in layers. You go with one layer and you allow it to dry and then you apply it more later on. Okay, now that I'm doing this, I'm wondering, okay, this Hero Hues is going to be an oil-based pigment ink, okay? Says we can heat set it. Waterproof for watercolors. Yeah, it's an oil-based then. It usually is. Dries permanently and quickly on most papers, but this is a non-porous paper, so I don't think they really intended for it to be used on something like a non-porous, but we'll see. If it doesn't dry, I'll spray seal it, and I think it should work out fine. Okay, let's go back to our large winter ash. Okay. Kind of hold down for a little bit longer on non-porous papers with your media surface combinations, just so that you allow the ink to transfer. There might be some slight absorption into this paper. This paper isn't completely non-porous, I don't believe, but it still requires a little bit of a longer impression time to transfer that ink. Now that really is a great impression. So I'm having some pretty good luck with this ink right here. They advertise it as a very, very black ink, and it seems to be a total eclipse black. I guess that's the color, although here it says opaque blackest black, so I guess that's the description of it. Okay, let's go for another tree here. A little bit more in the foreground. By putting it in the foreground, it means that I'm just kind of stamping it lower. And anything kind of lower in Western perspective looks a little bit closer, okay? Or represents something closer. All right. Now I held that one down for a slightly less amount of time, and it's a little bit lighter, okay? I don't know, I was just kind of experimenting here. And let's do this. Let's flank our character that's going to be in here with another tree on this side right here. I'm inking up more than I think I'm going to need, just because, you know, when I stamp it down here, if I stamp out a little bit less than maybe what I was thinking, at least, or if I stamp more than I think I was needing, then I won't have this gap if I didn't ink it up enough. So over ink. Now, if you're just using, like, I don't know, 10% of the image, don't ink up, you know, 90% or something like that, but I don't know, go over by, I don't know, 10, 20%, I would say, of what you your intended use. All right, so a nice deep impression like that. These are going to be a lot of fun to add shadows to with that really bright sun in there. Now I tend to go a little bit more minimal with my color touches with something like this, but I don't know, a little bit of green colored pencil down there. Warm greens maybe on that grassy area. Have our lady writer large. And I put that sun over there when I was thinking, okay, let's do this right here, and then it'll be like she's looking kind of at the sun. It's not quite a sunset, of course, but, you know, kind of enjoying the ride. Okay, let's go for a little bit more foreground. And I'll start adding in some extra touches here. Let's see. I'm looking for my reeds. I need to clean. Oh, here's my Moonlight Duo. This is that yellow that I was going to use. I couldn't find it, so I went with that Hero Hues one. This one might be a little bit warmer. I don't know. Maybe I'll see if I can kind of color with that. Okay, where did I get? I'll just use the I'll use the Art Foamies version. This one's bigger. It'll bring out the foreground a little bit closer to us. Closer to us from a visual perspective, not a physical perspective. Okay, now I don't want to hold this down for 30 seconds, okay, but you could, just to get a little bit of a darker impression. You really want these foreground impressions to be nice and dark. Okay, so a few seconds seems to be doing the trick here, no problem. See this how I'm kind of changing my angle with each one. I went like that, the next one's like this, next one's down here, and then you go like that. So it kind of goes like this type of thing, okay? And I'll do the same thing. Over here I'll go a little bit higher, and we'll angle, angle, angle like that. Okay, so we have our composition right there. Pretty fast, process right here. What are we at? We're at only 11.5 minutes. It's a pretty quick scene to do. 1, 2, 3, 4 stamps. And now, let's see. Let's use my... Okay, this is a black, just plain colored pencil. This right here is something interesting that I've been using lately that I came across in my art supplies from my school days. And that's a white pastel pencil. Now this is from like 35 years ago, so it's like, I never used it, and I didn't even know what it was. I thought it was a white colored pencil, but started using it. It's like a little bit more of a kind of a scratchy quality. Like a pencil, a pastel, but it's really not great for that. Okay, so, and like I said, let's bring a little bit of a green in it. I won't go crazy with all these colors because I want this to be a real, simple, kind of almost minimal scene. And plus, when we're doing this on this type of paper, I find that kind of a little bit less is not more, but kind of less is better. Okay, so let's go. Now you can't, this is not a textured surface, it's a really smooth one, so you can't really build up a lot of colored pencil work on here. So I'll use it minimally. Okay, now here's my sun right here. And just in general, I'm going to kind of, my angle of my shadow is going to be kind of pointing towards that light source, okay? But the surface is rounded, so, or curved, there's different angles to my terrain here. It's not just like flat concrete or something like that. So I'll kind of angle this a little bit like this. It's like little humps or something like that. Okay. And then here, see the angle gets a little bit more extreme like this. So it's going out more this way for the horse. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I mean, you could put like a little straight edge just to get, like a reference in there. If you're not quite certain of the angle. And it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Like I said, this is not like a, this isn't like concrete that they're on, so that, the shadow is going to be a little bit varied anyway. So see that? So the shadow's being cast by that. And this one, this tree right here, there's only this tiny little bit. Okay, so let's, now these images here, see these rocks are a little bit darker like that. I'm going to come in and just kind of add a little bit more shading to them. Not a whole lot, and this is using a black colored pencil, but I'm not using it like this. I'm using it like a very faint gray. It's where you kind of barely see it, you know, when you first start utilizing it like this. See this little water down here? That's in the design of the snowy brook. So I'm just kind of reiterating that with some additional tone. Okay. It almost looks pretty cool just as is, but let's add in a little bit of a hue here. Hue, H-U-E, for our colors. I'm just kind of adding a little bit more of a horizon there with this olive green here. Okay. And like I said, I don't want to go too heavy with this green here. We'll just kind of give it a little bit of a, kind of a hint of the general color scheme in here. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that kind of greenish tinge kind of coming around. I'm kind of hitting this olive, and again, I'm using this like I did with my black. I'm just using a very, very pale application of it, just to get a little bit of a hint of it, because I like what my wood grain paper is doing. I like the texturing of it, so I don't want to just kind of obscure, you know, what that brings to the, you know, the table. Okay, so see that? A little bit of a greenish tinge, and here's a little bit of a warmer green, lighter green. So I added the darker one more in those darker shadow areas, but then I'm adding the lighter one in those same areas, but I'm also going out into some of the lighter areas that I didn't cover with that darker green, okay? And we can go with something like that. Okay, now here's this pastel pencil here. And I'm going to add in a little bit of this touch. Now the pastel pencil, I will spray seal this piece to just kind of get the pastel pencil to adhere, just as if you were doing something with, you know, pastels. You would spray seal afterwards just to lock them down. Something like a workable fixative. Okay. And then let's hit our trees with a little bit of a, I don't know, it's like spring is coming around with the green there. And we have these bare trees, so let's add in some little blossoms into the tree. I'm not gonna go with the 3mm quite yet, because I don't know if I did this color texture scenario on a scene yet. Maybe I did. I guess I did, but I don't want to go so bold quite yet on this one. So these are just, it's like a tree in the spring when those blossoms come first. So sometimes when we're doing stamping, you know, we might be doing types of scenes reflective of, you know, our environment or the season that we happen to be in. But sometimes when it gets, I don't know, whatever, we've been we're done with the cold or something like that. You know, maybe you're waiting around for spring. In scenic stamping especially, you can kind of escape for, I don't know, whatever, in this case maybe like a half an hour on a kind of a psychological or emotional way into the locations that we're depicting on our scenes. So it's kind of fun. Going with the tree on the right side. See what I'm doing? I'm kind of clustering my little dots. And I think that Hero Hues yellow, pastel yellow, worked out well. You can go with a brighter yellow though. But I think it worked out in terms of, oh, the depiction here. I think when I do it in white, it does, I think it looks a little bit more like a moon than a sun. But just that little bit of warmth in the yellow, I think, makes it representative of more of a sun. I mean, the scenario here too. I think, although now that I think about it, I guess I could be a moon too. A lot of people have to have a little bit of warmth in their moon when they're doing it. Now see, this white right here is really standing out quite a bit, so I'll bring some of these blossoms down into the terrain too, or some of this texturing at least. It could represent some of these blossoms falling down, or it could just represent highlights as well. And see, you just change your, this is a lot of repetitious type of movement here. So you can see I'm moving my card around to a location that's very conducive for my hand just to comfortably tap out these. I'm not extending my arm somewhere and then adding these dots. My hands just naturally fall like this, and I'm just tapping it like this. So I just move this around. Now, as these dots dry, they get a little bit more see-through, okay? They don't turn absolutely transparent, but they do move a little bit more towards that range on the, whatever, the translucency opacity scale. Okay, but look at that, bring it to life. Okay, now let's add in some of these little highlights in our terrain down below. I might add a little bit more of that white pastel pen, but let's then do something with the paint pen first. Down here. I won't go crazy like, I did up there. Kind of brings the terrain to life, doesn't it? Those little specular highlights like that. Okay, I'm gonna fight the urge. I don't know, it's not fighting too hard, but the urge to kind of keep going, to town with this. Sometimes I'll start doing these little details like these, and then you're only like looking at this little area anytime you're doing it. But then sometimes when you go like this and you look at as a whole, it's like, oh my God, it's crawling with almost looks like Christmas lights or something like that. So hold it out at arm's distance periodically and take a look and see what affects, these little dots or something like that, or, how they're affecting the overall, okay? Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to mat this off. I'm going to spray seal it, and let's take a look and see what this finished card looks like. All right, there we have it. It has been spray sealed, mounted on this little piece of it looks like it's white, but it's a little bit of a beige color paper. It's, I don't know, warm white maybe. And then I tried this piece on a piece of craft paper, but I really like the kind of the excitement of the gold foil with the in combination with the wood grained paper. I think it looks really good like that. It kind of sets it apart from it. It's kind of like the opposites a little bit. You would think that that foil could be potentially a little bit distracting, but I don't know. I find that it's kind of what it needs a little bit. In terms of the papers that I have, if there's like another type of Star Dream or something like that, which I tend to not to use so much, for matting like this these days because the Star Dreams have really gone up in price. So these foils are relatively inexpensive still, so I really like using those. But anyway, I really like this composition here and how it turned out. I think it's a really fun paper to utilize, as I've used it a lot over these last couple months, I would say. And if you're looking for some sort of warm tinged scenario, if you're sitting there kind of already tired of kind of the cold weather, this one's a pretty good one to go with because you can do these really minimal applications of color and or texture like that, and it really just kind of completes the piece pretty fast because we already have kind of variations, slight variations in value, in texture going on in the background. It's certainly warm, and I don't know, it's just really fun to use. And then all that type of wooden texture right throughout here. I mean, if I look carefully, you can kind of see it, but it's really obscure when you stamp your imagery over the top of it and you do some kind of just minimal types of color applications, media applications over the top of it. So I thought about adding in some little, I don't know, pink blossoms or something like that up there, just for a little bit of color variation. But I think I wanted to keep this one just with these white little touches like that. I think it looks pretty good. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. And thanks as always for tuning into the Stampscapes channel.